Hello and welcome to Magical Travel Adventure. I am Lauren, your host, and today we are going to talk about how to plan for an Alaskan cruise. If you are new here, I am Lauren. I am a travel advisor. I specialize in Disney, Universal, and Alaskan cruising, so I can really help you with Alaskan cruising. And a lot of the services that I offer, I really help clients learn where they're going so that they can better be prepared when they get there. So let's talk about some of the things that I even do when I'm helping clients plan for their Alaskan cruises. So a lot of people are a little confused about how Alaskan cruising works and timing and the different options that are there. So those are the kinds of things that we're going to go through now. Like you're in the first stage, like I want to go on an Alaskan cruise. Now what? So normally, how I start off with clients is I want to make sure that everyone understands that you cannot go on an Alaskan cruise all the time. So the first thing is you need to know that Alaskan cruising does not happen all the time. There are different times of the year that Alaskan cruises happen. So the main time is the middle of summer through September. Now the shoulder season or the less popular time to go is in May and in September. Now with that being said, not everything is open in Alaska in the beginning of May or even the middle of May, and everything in September is also not open in Alaska after Labor Day. So you really want to think about if you're going before Memorial Day in May and if you're going after Labor Day in September, not everything is going to be open. So you're not going to have the same experiences and some excursions won't even take place. So you want to make sure that even though it might be a little less expensive to go at the beginning of May or the end of September, you are not maybe going to get the full experience if there are very specific things that you want to see or do. The weather obviously is going to be cooler during those times also than they would be in June, July, and August. So I'm just trying to show you this is when I went in August. Yes, you will see snow even in August. You will get close to the snow. You will get close to glaciers. So you will need to understand that even though it is the summertime and you are in Alaska, the range of weather is going to vary. I went on the 1 week in August this past year where it did not rain. Everyone else, every other week that they had, everyone else had rain at least 2 or 3 of the days of their cruise, and we would have, like, a little sprinkle while we were cruising, but never at any of our ports. So, be aware that you should expect rain. It will be colder on some days, and it will be warmer on some days. The sun is also a factor here. In Alaska, they will get more sun in June and July. And as it goes into August, you'll get less sun. But even so, you're getting sun more than you would be if you're in the lower 48 states. Or maybe even other parts of the world. So just know that the sun is going to be very different than what you're used to, depending on where you live. Now, where are you going to go on the Alaskan cruise? You're like, Alaska, obviously, but it's not that easy. So there are 3 types of cruises when you cruise in Alaska. One of them is the Inside Passage, which is actually a very small part of Alaska. And I'll talk about that in a minute, but it mostly, they all include going to Ketchikan, Juneau, and I would say Sitka. Um, yeah. So those are places that you can expect to go on the Inside Passage. Then the Gulf of Alaska is a one-way trip, meaning you are going up to Seward, Alaska, which is close to Anchorage, but Anchorage does not have a port. So you're either starting up there and going down to Vancouver or Seattle, or you're starting in Seattle and Vancouver and going up there. Again, I'll go into that a little more. And then there are expedition cruises, which are smaller cruise ships that will take you in very guided locations. It kind of depends on where you want to go, but there are some locations that go in that area in between Alaska and Russia. Alaska if you are interested, but those ships are smaller and there are a lot of variations depending on what you want, but expedition cruising does happen a lot in Alaska. So I have this map here to kind of show you. Typically, a lot of people are leaving from Vancouver and Seattle. So the inside passage, you're either leaving from Seattle or from Vancouver. If I'm leaving from Seattle, I at some point during my cruise, one of my stops needs to be in Canada. It is a rule in marine law that you can't just go to a US port, you have to stop somewhere else. So if you are leaving from Seattle, know that one of your stops will be in Vancouver, will be in Canada, and will not be in Alaska. If you leave from Vancouver, your stops will typically almost only be places in Alaska, the United States. Either way, you must have a passport. I'm going to say it again. To take an Alaskan cruise, you must have a passport because either way, you are going to be going into a foreign country. And if you want to get off the ship, if you want to go places, you should have your passport. So, with that being said, the inside passage means you're leaving from Vancouver, Seattle, and you are coming up here to Ketchikan. You are coming up to Juneau. Oh, and I said Sitka, but I meant Skagway. So, the three places that the inside passage will typically always go to is Ketchikan, Juneau, and Skagway. Other places you might go are to Sitka down here. You also might go to Haines instead of Skagway. Different options, different ports. There are some other ports around here that you also might go to, but you are going to loop. So you're going to come up, you're going to hit these locations, and then you are going to come back to your port. That's an inside passage. So you're not getting past this area really here. Sometimes you might get up to a Hubbard Glacier, but oftentimes you are coming back this way. Now, a one-way location is you will be starting here and you are going to be coming up and you will be going somewhere in this area. You won't be going to Anchorage, but you will be going around here to Seward, and that is the location you are going to go to. You also could do the reverse where you could be flying up to Anchorage and then going to Seward and then going one way on your way down. Both of these options, at some point, one of the days you are going to be going by at least one glacier in your trip. You might be going by multiple glaciers in your trip depending on the days. Most Alaskan cruises are 7 days. Some of them are 6 days or 5 days. Others can go up to 10 days. So it depends how many days you want to be on a cruise. Now, for expedition cruises, they literally could be anywhere. You could be, starting down here and coming up. You could be going in different locations. And expedition cruises allow you more freedom because there's less of a timetable that you have to be at this location at this time. So expedition cruises is maybe for people who really want to explore more, who really want that up and close personal experience on a cruise ship. So this was your Alaska thing. Now, as you can see, I did not talk about anything inside of Alaska. I will get to that when we talk about our land portion. So let's talk about the different cruise options because there are options. So there are regular cruise lines. Princess Cruise Line is the main cruise line. I don't want to say the main cruise line. The cruise line that's established the most in Alaska. They are very proud of that. They have special lodges that are on land for the land portion that they offer. So Princess Cruise Line is like one of the main cruises up in Alaska. Now, a lot of the major cruise lines are up there. Royal Caribbean is up there. Celebrity is up there. Disney Cruise Line is up there. Holland America is up there. So all those cruises still cruise up there. So don't feel like, oh, I have to take a princess cruise. It really, really depends on what you're looking for. Different ones offer you different options. I'm an Alaskan destination specialist. I'm also a Princess Alaskan specialist. So I really know about the products. So if you're saying like, "Oh my gosh, I want to take an Alaskan cruise," there are so many different options out there. That's why sometimes using a travel advisor is helpful, because I just by talking to you, I can narrow down like, "Oh, these are the 4 types of cruises that you might like. These are the only cruise lines that go there." And that could save you maybe like 5 or 6 days of research trying to figure it all out. Now, expedition ships, just an example of one is an journey ship. And those are smaller. They typically, so this is like a regular Princess cruise ship. Depending on what kind of cruise ship you are taking, it can be anywhere by like about 2,500 on the ship, or it could even go up to larger ships depending on what kind of if you're doing an inside passage, it's going to be a smaller ship. If you are taking a one-way trip, then the cruise ships can be larger. And then there are smaller ships like this that will only have maybe like 10 or 12 cabins on it. And you're going to very specific locations, and they are people from Alaska taking you around on their ships. And so you're definitely in smaller groups there. So you're really going to know the people on those ships. Now, a lot of people ask about the land options when they're taking an Alaskan cruise, and not all land, you can't do a land option for every Alaskan cruise. So if I'm doing an inside passage, meaning I'm starting in Vancouver or Seattle and I go up to Alaska and I'm returning back to Vancouver or Seattle, there is no land option then, because you're returning to Vancouver or Seattle. So you're not returning in Alaska. So you want that one way option where you either start in Vancouver or Seattle and then you go up to Seward, which is really, they'll call it Anchorage sometimes. And then, or you're starting at Anchorage, Seward, and coming down to Vancouver or Seattle, because you have to at some point get to the top portion of Alaska. You can't just do that little portion that's on the side of Canada. So an expedition cruise or that one-way Gulf of Alaskan cruise is the way that you can do your land option, because your goal here is once you are in Anchorage, if you want to go to Denali, you have to get up here, right? So there are train rides, there are buses, there are different things depending on what you want to do. If you want to go to Fairbanks, sometimes there are options there. Princess Cruise has 4 different locations where they have different lodges where you can stay on land. So that is the one that's known the most. So there are options in this area. You're probably not getting above here. If you're doing an expedition, you may be able to get up higher in Alaska, but those are very specialty cruises. So they're not like the run-of-the-mill cruises that you're going to see every day. Now, the question I get all the time is, when should I be booking my Alaskan cruise? You really want to book about a year in advance. And I say that because Alaskan cruises, it's a small season, right? We talked about it. It's between May and September. And if you really have specific cruise spaces that you want, I always recommend getting a balcony stateroom. I just sat out on the balcony the whole time we were on our cruise. I hardly ever sat in our room. Um, there's so much to see on an Alaskan cruise. I think a balcony, at least you want some sort of window in your room. So you definitely want that. But I really think that year in advance, you can get the better options of what's available. The price also on Alaskan cruises goes up as more cruise staterooms are sold. The price of a cruise will go up. So your best pricing is about a year in advance. So you really want to look at that also. Now, this also helps with tours. Depending on which cruise line you're on, as soon as you book an Alaskan cruise, you can start booking those excursions that you're going to do, or the tours that you're going to do on the certain days that you're going to be there. So there are really popular things that happen in Alaska. A lot of people like taking a helicopter tour to then go and do dog sledding somewhere, or there are different salmon options where you can go fishing on certain locations. So there are a lot of different options. There are off-roading vehicles that a lot of people like, and they sell out quickly. So sometimes if you book, those options are not available through the cruise line. You can still try to get them through other locations, not through the cruise line. But if you're nervous about doing that, you want to make sure that you're booking as soon as possible. 6 months before you go. So if you can get it in by like Christmas time or the end of the year, and you're going to go in or January or even February, those are good times to go to. Just know that you might have to make a lot of decisions quickly the closer you book to February and March, because you will probably have to book all of your excursions at the time you're booking your cruise also. If you are also concerned because you will have to do, you have to put a deposit down, and final payment is due also, and you have to pay for your excursions. So if you're trying to spread that out more, the earlier you book, you can spread that time out also. So just remember that. This is just a view of one of the glaciers we saw on our last Alaskan cruise. And let me tell you, I also had my 4-year-old with me. I had my mother and my aunt, and obviously I had my husband with me too. And we had the most amazing time. So that is definitely something that I would think about. Something I did not include here is I think something that's super important is obviously you want to fly in a day or two early to wherever you are going. So one of the things that I like to do is when we went out of Vancouver, when we went out of Vancouver, we came in 2 days early because we had such a time difference. We had a 4-hour time difference, and I had a 4-year-old son, trying to get him used to it, although he's like a champ with time changes and everything like that. So it wasn't that hard, but I feel like we had the extra buffer of that day, and we got to see Vancouver, which is a beautiful city, fun place to stay. It's definitely a lot of fun there. So I'm super glad that we got to go and do that. That was fun too. But that's for other planning times. So anyways, I hope this video was helpful for you as you plan your Alaskan cruise. Please reach out if you have questions about planning an Alaskan cruise, or if you would like to use my services. My information is below, and I would love to help you. So please like, subscribe, and hit that bell notification if you would like more videos like this. And I will see you next time on Magical Travel Adventure. Bye.